Hey guys, welcome back to CTN. This is part 2 of our Black Lives Matter series. If you have not listened to part 1, you can do so on Spotify, on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and you can also watch the video on YouTube. All you have to search for all of the above is at CTN_UK. So without further ado, here is part 2 of our conversation on Black Lives Matter. Enjoy, guys.
I think what I think what I was touching on there is I feel like every human desires to be loved and respected and to be appreciated and to be seen as somebody and of worth, yeah? And so I feel like in the drive, I feel like a lot of what's happening is not only, bless you, it's not only just about what we're seeing empirically in terms of this many people got stopped and searched, this many people have, like you were saying, have been dealt badly with the NHS, this many people have suffered discrimination at workplace. I feel like these experiences we face this experientially in terms of like there's like the numbers aspect. There's a deeper sentiment in terms of you don't respect me as a person. You don't, and I wonder in our pursuit of change, what are our goals? Do you see what I mean? Is our goal what are our goals? Because like you said, not everyone is going to like you. And so what is your bid? What is the bid here? What is the bid here? I think, but you raised an important point, which is that there's maybe a generational aspect. There's a generational thinking. There's and as generations move on, I feel like our current generation is becoming much more informed. And you will see that's why a lot of young white protesters are out on the streets with black protesters, because they are, in quotes, aware. I was going to say another word, but they're aware of the issue.
I like that word better.
Well, aware.
Word, yeah.
So, so they are aware of the issues that are happening, and they too, and so they've been exposed, while generations above haven't been. But I also think it touches on another aspect which we were, and I'm going to tie in two actually in this, which was okay. I think also in terms of this is that it's education. I think education, the narrative of your identity is very important. And I think this is why the aspect of education, because you touched on something there where you were like, generationally, there's a generational kind of, there's a certain generation that are just not, they're just so disassociated with the black sentiment, with the issues of blackness, with the issues of racism. They just haven't, the education has not been there, the perspective has not been refined. And again, I want to say, like you mentioned before, this is not a generic statement, because you've got some people. I remember a lecturer that I met, and he was fighting in terms of apartheid for black people, you know what I mean? You meet some, and he's probably 60, and you meet some amazing people like that are just, amazing. So, but we don't neglect the fact that there is a kind of, there's a lot of people that don't have that perspective, or there's the people that have the power, essentially. So, but I think also, when we're talking about changing the perspective of the next generation as well, I think the narrative of your identity is so crucial. And now I can bring this into, I guess, the US experience versus the UK experience. So many people feel, well, not many, but I've had this conversation with a couple of people that I've said, why are UK people on the streets? They're shooting in the US. Your experience is not as bad as the US. Why are you shooting on the streets? And I think, why are you protesting? Why are you so riled up? And I think you can touch on, and then I'm going to throw that question at you. And I think also the reason why I touched on this a bit is why I'm bringing this question up now, Also touching what you were saying before about the next generation, I feel like in order for the next generation to be really for those that are in power per se, for those that are going to step into new seats of power from the next generation, the narrative, the educational narrative has to change. So this kind of,
and there's a fight on the front line for that as well.
Exactly. This kind of empire, and now can you see why we're going to touch into the next one? So this kind of empire narrative, the great empire, the disassociation from other cultures having invested, having any informed kind of participation in that building of empire, etc. You know, there we go. You know what I mean? So there's so many things. Transatlantic slavery, you know, there's so many things. So in order for even their mind, the next generation, and those that are going to step into seats of power in the next generation, that educational narrative, that understanding of what our global community is about has to change, or else they're going to inherit a perspective that is in our text and informs their perspectives of the Black experience and what Black people are about. So over to you. Why is the UK experience valid?
Okay. I want to say quickly, leading on from what you were saying about the educational aspect, I think that we talked about accountability, and I think accountability works both ways. We are now accountable because of what we know. So as a prospective parent, I know that I have to teach my child about the history of just Black people, and it shouldn't fall on my shoulders. But the reality is, in Britain, they will teach you about the Vikings until you suffocate, and Henry's wives. That's all and the War of the Roses. That's what they will teach you about from now till you leave school. That's where personal accountability comes in. I think that it is very, very important that you do not leave your child's education up to the education system here. Just full stop.
Wow.
Because you can see, and we know that there are some real inconsistencies. There are some stories that have not been told. There are some people, like for instance, we learned about Mary Seacole, and the time we probably did a couple more Black people, but they're the kind of generic Black people: Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and obviously we only learnt about them in October because that's Black History Month. Do you know what I mean? So you know better, so you do better. Even if, and there are petitions for the history curriculum in schools in the UK to be overhauled, that is more reflective of every part of its history. You know what I mean? It's very much rule Britannia, rule Great Britannia rules the waves. That's very much what it is. But they don't talk about their part in slavery. They don't talk about their part in, they don't talk, when they talk about their colonies, they romanticize it. Do you understand? So you know better, you do better, and that is how we can ensure that there is change generationally in terms of people being taught correctly. So that's what I think about that. In terms of is the UK's fight valid fight? Yes, it's a valid fight, because I find it so annoying when people are like, oh, your people weren't slaves. Oh, well, they can kind of say what they want to say. I know where I come from. I actually had a conversation with a person. I'm not even going to give locations or whatever. I had a conversation with a white gentleman who really told me about myself and told me about how privileged I was. And, you know, really, really told me all these things. And I was like, fam, number one, I'm not even from these parts. So you don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you even talking about? So I think it's very, very important that we do not bring down another man's struggle because it doesn't look like ours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that people think that because the police aren't shooting at people here, that there's not police brutality. People think that because, oh, it's just a little stop and search, it's fine. You know, they're stopping and searching. They will stop and search boys as young as 11. Yeah. They will stop and sometimes they'll take them to I've heard of 13-year-olds being arrested. They don't have anything on them. Nothing. They don't got no drugs, no knives, they don't have any drugs, any knives, nothing like that on them, but they're arrested because they were during the stop and search, they may have accidentally flipped out and hit the police and they got arrested. Do you get what I mean? So I think that the UK struggle is valid, very, very valid. I think that the things that our young Black boys have been put through warrant our protests. I think that the people who have died in police custody and their families have not received justice, deserve our attention. I think that what's that word when you look at someone and you judge them straight away?
Preconceptions.
Yeah. The idea that you can look at a Black man driving a 2019 car and say it's too nice for that Black man to own, so I have to pull him over, warrant our attention. I think it does warrant our attention. It was on the news, the Black man who had the crisp, the really nice car, and they kept pulling him over because he had a nice car and he was a Black man. Now, I hear what you're saying. He didn't get shot, but once again, I will die on this hill that if British police had guns, we would be finished. Personally, that's just what I believe. Because if them can behave the way them behave without gun, baby girl, don't want to know what they can do if you can give them real things. I think that so yeah, I do 100%. I believe that anybody who is subject to discrimination has a right to be heard. I do. And I think that especially in the UK, where consciously or unconsciously, the powers that be play a heavy hand in the way in which our young Black men are treated, the way in which they're dealt with, the experiences that they have, the fact that there are young Black boys who simply don't trust the police, and as soon as they see them, it's a problem. And I think that they do have a hand in that, and I think that we do need to address it. So I think that while the fight may not look like the fight that America is currently going through, it is still a fight that needs to be had. It's still something that needs to be addressed. It's still something that we need to sort out. The idea of we have it a little bit better than America, or we have it much better than America, therefore we should shut up and take it, is one that I will not stand behind personally. So that's how I feel about that.
So good. And Ella has said it beautifully. I mean, you're right. I think, what you've highlighted is that I like what you said about just because our experiences don't look the same does not mean that they're invalid. One, two, I think, is it till blood falls on the ground that you'll be happy? That we protest. Essentially, we are putting in not preventive measures, but we won't wait till people get shot up to protest. And I think also why was and I think also the response as well in terms of the protest was one of was a communal solidarity.
Yeah, 100%.
Well. And I think we should be sensitive to that as well. That if I want to identify, you see that all the time. People that are maybe in the UK, but their country, but be it in Asia, be it in South America, and it's issues, or maybe not physically protest because the momentum is not as steep, but you will see them say, look, there's this crisis, raise aid. There's this crisis, we are responding because we identify with the issues of our community, and there has to be space like for that. But also amazing what you said in terms of just the UK experience being a valid one. Blood doesn't have to be on the floor till we think that till we make some till we shake the table a little bit to say, hold on, what's going on. And I think it's interesting as well because people also think, I think there's the preconception that the UK, it's almost like, I don't know, the narrative of you should be grateful.
Yeah.
You are benefiting from our social services. You are here benefiting from our free health system.
Yes.
Free schools.
Like we don't pay taxes. We're exempt from taxes.
You know what I mean? I feel like there's this underlying kind of, you should be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and again, I keep saying this is not a generic, but as you have conversation, as you read things, as you just sense this kind of perspective, I think, and even going back to the education thing, it's like, okay, well, this is our country. Mm-hmm. This is we are English, we are British, we
are essentially white, so we own the land.
So we own the land.
Yeah.
And so even let's go back to his history, like for example, when we're talking about education, key stage 1 to key stage 3 has it goes to, like you were saying, the Vikings, the Celts, and it goes through British politics. A bit goes through like the suffragettes, depending on how your school chooses. It goes through it, and then it touches obviously periods. But end of empire. Generally, it's end of empire. It's not even maybe so. I can't speak for all schools, but do you know what I mean? So it touches on empire a bit. And so yes, why should we not talk about our history? And then it goes back to what you were saying again about about how as a parent it's up to you to inform, it's up for you to be educated and to tell your children. So it's almost like the UK experience is like, first of all, there should be a level of gratitude that you're here. 1, 2, this is our land, and we will inform people as we please.
Yeah.
Essentially, we will inform them as we please. This is our history, and we're presenting our history. You don't see me rolling onto the streets of Benin and trying to change the history there, etc., etc. So you have this kind of cross thing. I mean, I guess that the fact of the matter actually is is that our history is a shared one, and so we would like,
whether they like it or not,
our history is a shared one to an extent, and I think there has to be a greater. I think what it is. I think our history is a shared one, and the way that the problem is that our history is a shared one, and so it's not presented maybe accurately or as best as it could be. But the other thing is why you people in the UK are also so riled up is because, considering our history, we should not be treated this way. You see what I mean? Like, considering our history, there should be a level of sensitivity and understanding in terms of our community, and there should be a level of responsibility in terms of being able to help and to being able to facilitate. Because you hear it all the time. There's just sometimes in certain circles there's such a condescending attitude in terms of that black man who is road, who is street, who his story has context, his story is coming from a particular place, and when you back, that's why we're saying centuries of grievance. When you go back, his story has context. There are things that have happened, and when you fail to take responsibility, but on top of not taking responsibility, you point fingers and deject and make it's just a lot. It's just definitely a lot. And I think in the UK, oh gosh, in the UK, I was again listening to something about they were talking about the grime scene. They were talking about the grime scene, and they were talking about garage. I'm not really into music, and that is probably looking at me like, "Where you go with this?"
I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. So say what you're saying. Go on. Tell us about what do you call it? Garage.
No, garage. Grime.
Tell us about it.
Urban music.
Tell us about it.
Hallelujah. I wish I don't know if let's leave it to no, but essentially, I think it was in Afua Hirsch's, again, her book, and she was talking about David Cameron. She was talking about name dropped, but yeah, she was talking about his response to the scene, and how she was saying, he was saying that this music is basically the produce of our social ills. That's what I got from it. It is the catalyst for social. You didn't say social anarchy, but essentially the ills of society. And she was essentially saying, if I remember, she was like, even that grime and garage, and even it has context as well. It has it's birthed out of an experience. It's birthed out of an experience that is a product of a generational experience. So the reason why I'm saying this is because, pardon? Yeah, so it is like the ownership needs to be there. We're not making things up out of thin air, and the way the feelings of the populace are not made up out of thin air. We're not just trying to be out. We're not just trying to ruffle feathers. We're not just trying to. I mean, even in terms of when you look at the history of music, if you look at the contribution, in terms of immigrants per se, it is vast, and it is something to be acknowledged. And to be honest, the reason why people are even further irked is because of the kind of neo-colonial pursuits that are happening in different countries. So it's like not only was there an in quote violation 400 years ago, etc. You know what I mean? All those years back, centuries back. We are also dealing with the issues now. We're dealing with the systemic racial issues. We're dealing with the institutional issues, etc. We're dealing with the social issues, the services, etc. We are also seeing you act like that it's not really as big a deal. But then also, if you we're seeing your neo-colonial tide aid. Do you know what I mean? So it's just a whole big violation, really. We're seeing, you know what I mean? So it's, and I wish, I'm not going to delve in too much over there, because I feel like I need to read up a bit more. These are things that I've read in the past, and I'm kind of bringing them up to the fore. So what we're saying is that the aggravation is valid. That's what I'm essentially saying. The sentiment of the population is valid. And honestly, to be honest, the issues are so far and deep reaching that we don't unearth these issues, and then they become suppressed. And then that leads to a whole lot. Now I can't go personally into like mental health issues, but it just into the outflow. There's just so many nuances. There's just so many things connected, and so the UK experience is extremely valid. And then did you touch on the Windrush generation? I mean, that in itself, in terms of, despite all the contribution, there was a contemplation.
There was audacity, Miss May. You had under your leadership, you had the audacity.
It's this kind of like lack of like, are you? Is this kind of like, are we all in the same country? Are we all reading this? Are we?
Yeah.
What? Like, and it's like like it, and this is what we're talking about. It's this lack of just shoving things under the carpet. It just didn't happen.
They have this way of doing this thing where Jesus. They have this, that's not in vain, because I really need him right now, so I'm definitely not calling his name in vain. But they have this way of doing this thing. Because like I said, I had this conversation with a British gentleman, and it was very much a thing of, well, you know, slavery wasn't a big thing in Britain. So so, you know, it's not like you guys were slaves. Or I said, hold up 1 second. You, Britain, Great Britannia, who ruled the world and had colonies everywhere in the Caribbean, in India, you had slaves in those colonies.
Slaves
here. And then, okay, cool. Now let's give him that Britain didn't have slaves. This island, let's give him that, yeah. Let's give him that now. This island didn't have any slaves. Okay, cool. We're working on that premise. We're talking about your colonies, that you had slaves that you took and you shipped to those colonies, and then you would get the resource of the land, get your money, and come and build over here, sir. But you guys don't have nothing to do with it. Okay, cool. I was just like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, what you just said. I said, if there's anybody in the world that has things within its grasp right now that they should not hold because your land doesn't have the ability to produce it, you stole it from somewhere, it's Britain. And it's just the audacity, the ability. I like the word audacity. It's the ability, yeah, for you to completely detach yourself and disengage with what has happened because your quote unquote ancestors may have done it, but you had no part in it. That's cool, that's fine, but you benefited from it. We still not benefiting from it. You understand? And it's the fact that you can't even recognize it. You cannot. There is this. I had to say, Lord, remove the veil from their eyes, because I don't know if they're playing stupid or if some of these people are just genuinely not all there together, because that does not make sense. It does not. But yet still, you will go and you will talk about how when you're teaching history, you will talk about the great empire of Britain, and you will mention in your analysis of the great empire of Britain all the countries that Britain owned, all the things that Britain owned, all the resources that Britain went and pillaged, yeah? But you're going to say it's none of your business now, yeah? Because you no longer have control over those places, and it just, especially as a Jamaican, it grieves my spirit. It makes me so upset. We were one of the first islands to get, well, not one of the first, but we got independence very early on. Cool. But even after independence, the land was still being toiled by Jamaicans, but it was still the British families on the island that were getting the wealth. The idea that, yes, you may have freed a lot of these people, but you were still doing cheap labor, little to nothing. Do you know what I mean? Yes, they were free in title, but they were not free in every other aspect, because they were still living impoverished. I sometimes I wish that I was able to completely detach myself
from what? From this experience.
And that's why I understand when you said that in order, it's kind of I get it, because it's like a survival thing. In order to survive in the space that you're in, you cannot even the very core of who you are, you have to put it on a back burner for 8 hours a day. because otherwise you will notice every little thing
Yeah.
that is
I
done,
feel like,
every little thing that is said, every little kind of look, or you will notice. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean?
I definitely feel so. I feel like, funnily enough, I feel like, and this is where some people may disagree with me a lot. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, where I am currently, hey, I don't know, I don't know if they're going to listen, but shout outs. But I mean, they're amazing. They're amazing people, amazing, and I feel like, um, they're amazing. It's been great. I think one of the things that have helped me is that, and some people may not like what I'm about to say. Yeah, that's because I do not walk in the identity of my skin. It's meant that the way I behave, and some people may disagree with this. I'm going to be very careful how I say this, but I refuse. I behave like I would say myself, if that makes sense. I still have to. I still understand political correctness, and but I think, and some people may now say this may be hard work. This may be hard work, but I refuse to allow my color to be a distinguishing factor, even though it is. So, for example, and some people may say this is an issue in itself, making people feel comfortable, right? So I have seen it as a thing where you will see me as Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm black. I'm a woman. I'm me. You see what I mean? And where am I going with this? Lord help me. It's but because I know that if I focus on the fact that I'm black
Mm-hmm.
in white majority spaces, I may just overthink, which probably ties back to what you were saying. I have to detach from what I know to be true because it comes with so much. And so
But
I don't know
that's
if,
more. Okay. So, but that is more for you than it is for anybody else.
oh yeah, who else would it be for? Oh
that
yeah.
that is that is your way of navigating the space that you're
But
in.
also for them.
See,
Yeah.
I
So
don't think this is where we will. I think this is where
we're
you
gonna
have
cross.
the best.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying now. Where I may put a lot of people on the edge because why are you making people feel comfortable for? Yeah. But the point of the matter is that I want it to be comfortable for everybody. It's gonna be comfortable for me. It's gonna be comfortable for you, and I will carry myself in a particular way. I'll just not in the same way that I am right now. To be honest, but I can't. The thing is, I know the feeling when you are aware of your blackness.
Yeah.
When you're aware of your blackness, it's like I'm the only black person here, and I'm misunderstood already. I feel like there's just so much, and you have to. And this is what I'm saying. So, and you try to kind of preempt what people's perspectives of you are going to be because you're black.
And then
Yeah.
adjust yourself according
So
to.
you already think that they're uncomfortable with not uncomfortable, but it's like okay, wow, black
Yeah.
is here. Do you know what I mean? And so in order for you to be comfortable, not just for you to be comfortable, for me to be comfortable, I'm not gonna care. Like I will look at you and be like, okay, well, this is the I like this I don't know how to describe it. I feel like the reason why I'm saying this is because the reason why I'm saying this may be an issue is because why do you feel like you have to work extra? Why do you feel like you have to do any kind of psychological detachment balancing? Why do you feel like you have to do some kind of psychological mathematics because of your race? And that's what I think people may go back to. Like, see, you even still have to work psychologically.
See,
So
that's because okay, several things,
oh,
Elizabeth.
pardon?
Let's have a discussion.
Yes.
So, number one, no matter how hard you try, when
Yeah.
people look at you, they're gonna see your color.
So
And
that's exactly
first of all, that's the first thing. And the second thing is, it comes down to the argument of what is acting black. When
okay. Yes.
it comes down to the argument of what is acting black. it's kind of that thing of, I hear what you're saying, because you know you're in that space, so you know what you need to do to navigate it. But as an outsider, I'm like, why is it that it comes back down to the argument of certain characteristics being assigned to a specific color, which doesn't make sense, because there's some hella loud white people, there's some hella loud Asian people. Do you know what I mean? There are people who have these characteristics that are usually attached to a black person. That's a conversation, I think, on a whole on its own. But the idea that you have to it feels like it goes a little bit beyond code switching.
So I think,
and you do that in order to
navigate spaces.
Not navigate spaces. You do that in order to put at ease people's perception of you, which they may not even have, but because you are black, you automatically think that because you're an only black person in that space, they will have that. Jesus, I'm running out of, not Jesus, don't want to call your name in vain, but I'm running out of breath. They have that perspective of you already. Am I correct?
Yeah. So this I feel like it's kind of sorry guys, see, we're on a journey here. I wish I had, but basically, essentially, I think it's a case where you mentioned something quite right. What is acting black? What does that even mean? But as far as we are concerned, there is a stereotype. Yeah. There's a stereotype, and that's something that cannot be run away from. And I've seen in different spaces people even imitate this kind of stereotype to say, oh, you know, it's a sassy black girl, or the, you know what I mean? And I've seen that come to the fore. Okay. So, and there's a way of delivery, there's a way of acting, there's a way of behaving. You can't be aggressive. You can't.
Yeah.
You have to be so aware of that. What I think happens is that when you are trying, what I mean is that I guess this is what I mean. This goes back to uni. When I was in uni, I decided that when I do things, when I submit application, when I do things, I'm not black.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I said I'm Elizabeth. I'm not a black woman applying to this. I'm not taking any societal preconceptions. I'm not taking anything with me. I'm just me. And I said being black was not going to be a hindrance, which meant that I know I'm black, but I will not give it too much thought. I will not over, and even when I'm in different spaces, but I'm the only person, it's like this, and I can feel it sometimes. I can feel it. I'm like, whoa, I remember, I'm not even going, but you know, but I'm like, but at the end of the day, I am me. Do you know what I mean? I cannot, and so.
But I think the thing that I'm
is, I know what you're saying about making people feel comfortable.
It's not even just making people feel comfortable. It's about the fact that Elizabeth has to be separated from a black woman. That is the bit that I'm a bit like, because Elizabeth is a black woman.
Yes.
So that's where I'm a bit like,
wow.
When you say you have to separate Elizabeth from being a black woman.
Yes.
And I understand, because you're coming from the corporate world. I've never been in the corporate world. I was a teacher and now I run a supported living business. So I've never been in the corporate world per se, in the way in which you've been in it. Yeah. So I'm trying to understand why Elizabeth couldn't just be the black woman.
Okay.
Well, why is it so important that even if a part of Elizabeth's character is certain aspects of the stereotypes that they have for black people, which I will reiterate, stereotypes for black people are not just done by black people. There is no way to act black. There is no such thing as acting black.
Well, do you know what the funny thing is?
All about your social
Yeah,
So
construct.
your environment, do you know what I mean? That is what it is.
Yeah.
So why is it that Elizabeth can't just be the Black woman? And if it just so happens that Elizabeth may carry some of these quote unquote stereotypes, that she just doesn't carry these stereotypes.
Yeah, I think the thing is that I didn't want to be the Black woman before I was Elizabeth, if that makes sense. So when you have somebody, when you come into a social space and you'll be like, whoosh, I'm the only Black person.
Mm.
And suddenly you're just the Black person.
Mm.
And I was like, I will not just be the Black person. You see what I mean? I will not just be the Black person. And so because let's say you have a Caucasian white person called Zach, hypothetically, Zach's not the white man. He's just Zach. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I had to just be like, listen.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you see what I mean? So yeah. I'm just me. Like, I will not. And so I think that's when it goes back to me feeling not desensitized it would come up things. Sometimes you hear things, but I was like, listen, like, and so I guess with that kind of thing in mind, because you can, if you're so conscious of being the Black person, you start to
Elizabeth and this microphone.
Amen, hallelujah. Well, if you're conscious you're the Black person, you start to you can be on edge. You can just be socially on edge. You can just be tripping. You can just be oversensitive. You will not be free. Do you know what I mean? You will just be calculating. Am I doing too much? Am I doing? It would just be a whole lot. And I feel like in me deciding I'm Elizabeth before I'm Black, it gave people just the freedom to know Liz. Like, that's what they call it, just Liz. That's just Liz. Do you know what I mean? I know I'm Black. I know that sometimes things can come up and you're like, this is interesting. Whoa, where do we go from here? I remember, I'm just being careful with my words right now, but so there's that. Unfortunately, so it's so interesting because you're combating the feeling of being Black. You're trying to understand your Blackness. You're trying to, you're coming from a context of identity discovery and a communal kind of experience, and in that moment when you're in a particular space, you have to just, because and you're with in a communal space with the very thing that is not, I don't want to say antagonistic, but with a battle that they can't see. You know what I mean? You're with a battle. You're dealing with a battle they cannot see, and in that moment, I really knew that I had to not focus on being Black. It was just not, I'm actually not your token Black person, to be honest. I will not be your token. In whatever space, I'm not just saying where I'm working, I'm just saying wherever, because you will walk in with a level of trepidation. You will walk in with a level of feeling like when you go into a meeting, you just tensed up. And me, on my job, I don't focus on me being Black. I focus on me being excellent. Not because I'm Black. I'm not even trying to prove, goes back to Black excellent, but I'm just trying to be, and that doesn't mean, and I don't know, I am conscious of our spaces. That's why we have, I'll mention it now, we set up schemes. Do you know what I mean? We try and put on events because we're trying to get our Black people into spaces. We're conscious there is a dearth of Black people. But when you arrive there, you are not, you are excellent because you are you. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to prove any, listen, it's like, even though you're aware of the community behind you, I want to use this lightly. Don't even do this. Don't even be excellent for your community like that. You just, you know what I mean? And when you focus on being the best version of yourself, you will move and your community will come with you if you have a heart for the community. You know what I mean? So it was that because I knew for a fact, I knew that if I just when I go into I just laugh. I know sometimes when I change my hair, those days not my worst days, but I go in and I'm like, oh gosh, another hair change. And I hide in the toilet and I say, God help me as I walk through the office today. You know what I mean? But apart from that, and sometimes people bring up nuances, and I know sometimes I'm a bit reserved. I can be a bit reserved because I am conscious that I'm Black and I'm a woman. Sometimes I am. I can't lie for that. But when it comes to, I'm not trying to prove myself harder, but work harder Black people have to work harder because I don't believe, me personally, I can't buy into that narrative. I can't carry the weight. I can't carry the weight of the whole of 400 of 270 generations on my head like that. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to prove that as a Black person I can work hard and I can be great. No, 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 no. That's not it. I'm a human being, so I have a capacity for excellence, just like you do. Do you know what I mean? So we're on the same level. You are Zach, hypothetical Zach, and I am Liz. And so it's and I feel like actually it's giving me a level of freedom. And I think for people that may find themselves in certain places, it will give them a level of freedom as well, because you have started to see yourself as a human being and not just the Black person that's in the office. You start to see them as a human being. You're just another human being, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? I will relate how we can relate, but I will not give you a pedestal in my life. Like you see me from, I'm down here and you see me, we're on the same level. So I think that's where that kind of sentiment comes from. I can't lie, it has probably made me at times a bit more I wouldn't say desensitized, but I'm a bit more, okay, let's just get on with it. Do you know what I mean? Let's get on with it. You know what I mean? And if we're doing change, it's gonna have to be deep, entrenched change. Decide if it's you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think yeah, I think that's what's where were we going with this, Nella? Woo! We have been touching on some subjects. I feel like this is the thing with this conversation. I was slightly apprehensive. I remember telling her that I feel like I wasn't ready to have this conversation.
Oh, child, you were ready.
I was really avoiding it with all my heart because I just thought I don't know what to say about this. But I really feel like it's just been such a good conversation because we've got another point, but I feel like it just makes you feel like, wow, you know, it's helped in terms of dissecting what's been happening. And I want to encourage actually people that feel like, because you know, maybe you feel like your Black experience is not qualified. Like I mean, I think just being in the UK and being Black, you will have some kind of experience somewhere. I'm sure of it. You have an experience to talk about. And you may not be, I think, you know, I think everybody's on their journey in terms of learning and understanding the Black journey. I'm saying this because I feel like this has been such a fantastic conversation because you can ask Anela, I was running from this conversation.
She was.
I was just like, I don't know, but I think what this has done is that we know more than we think because we feel what we feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just having the opportunity to speak. So I think don't feel like you haven't maybe read 3,000 books. Yeah. Be careful. Yeah. 300. I'm an advent of reading, so I know I'm not even throwing shade. I'm reading right now. So if I show you okay. So but I'm saying essentially you have an experience to talk about and to have a conversation with somebody, speak to a friend, find a friend to speak about, to kind of dissect how you feel about your Black experience and about the issues that you're seeing and what your own experiences have been, you know. Hash it out, like Anela always says, hash it out, try and understand what's happening, how you feel about it, what your role is in it, you know. Already I feel kind of really motivated actually and inspired just in terms of having a more tangible approach and awareness, I guess, in terms of this whole kind of Black experience. So that's just some encouragement for the listeners there, that your experience matters. You have something to talk about. Just don't talk about it during the podcast because you're meant to be listening.
Oh wow.
Joking.
But not just just piggybacking on what Liz said. I think that one of the greatest tools that we have in this kind of ongoing fight is our ability to sympathize and empathize. So once you recognize how something makes you feel, one of the things that I've been doing, because like I said, trying to find my space in this whole thing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been doing is, once I recognize how I feel, thinking of how can I ensure that people behind me don't feel that way, or how can I support somebody who's currently feeling that. Do you know what I mean? I think that in order for us to see a change, we have to be the change. So that means that for me, this is going to sound really, really stupid, but there's certain places that I don't patronize anymore. You're not getting my money because of, sorry, you're not getting my money because
your response was not adequate.
It wasn't. So, and yes, it might only be a couple quid here and there, but I'll give it to somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Even in terms of there are little shops in the area that as a Caribbean woman, you would automatically go to get food. And I'm not going to name names, but I just said, me and my mom were like, why are we giving our money to these people when there is a Black-owned Caribbean shop not too far away that we can patronize? No, do you see what I'm saying? We're talking about all these things, but we've got to kind of make sure that we are all, because protesting is not just about going on the marches and holding up the placards. There is a accountability that we now all as a community have to make sure that we are playing our part. We can't hold other people accountable and not hold ourselves accountable. And that's one thing that I'm making sure that I do. I'm holding myself accountable in the little things that I can do to ensure that my community starts to thrive. And for me, one of those ways is where I put my money. So I kind of went on a tangent, but the point is, once you feel what you feel, see how you can mitigate it for the person, mitigate it for the mitigate, right? You can mitigate it for the person that's coming behind you. So yeah.
I think it's so true, because, you know, having that kind of mindset is important. I think you have to think also that you're in a bid to change something, you have to think your contribution in existence is valid.
It is, and it is.
And it is valid. That's what I'm saying. You know, it is valid. Like, whatever space, I think even within the movement as well, some people have they've disposed themselves even within it. Do you know? So I don't know if that makes sense. They feel like they have nothing to contribute, or they feel like they've got nothing to add, or nothing to share, or nothing, like maybe no, I feel like, I don't know if I'm making sense. You know, and so it's like I said, well, after you feel what you feel, think. Do you know what I mean? Your feelings have the way that the maybe experience that you've had many a times are stepping stones for you to make changes, and not just for you to disregard and be like, it wasn't as big as this person's, or it wasn't as prominent as this person's, or I'm not okay. I may not know about this issue or that issue as much. I'm sure there's something that maybe you've been through, and that experience is a stepping stone for you to make change. So.
And it's even biblical, you know, the Bible talks about a little leaven
at the lump.
And it talks about the foxes.
Oh,
great. It talks about the foxes, do you know what I mean? So it's everybody doing a little bit that it may not be reflective now, but in a couple of years, our children's children will feel it. Do you understand? It's just like with I'm always so in awe of Soho Road. If you look at it, do you know what I mean? That area
in itself,
it's a whole different conversation, but actually that area used to be predominantly white, and then it went to predominantly black, and then it went to just Asians. And I'm pretty sure that when they started, they may not have felt the impact of it, but generations after them are feeling it. Do you
Yeah.
understand? So you've really got to play your part, essentially,
Yeah, play your part in whichever way. Like I think,
whichever way you can. Yeah.
yeah, we whether it's channeling your money towards particular services,
Mm-hmm.
um, just I guess um within your own space, pushing for a particular cause. You know what I mean? For some people, like we mentioned, it's your life work, it's your life calling to
Mm-hmm.
really be engaged, and for others, it is a sentiment that is not just sentiment, because sentiment can sometimes be used quite loosely, but it's an experience which you're participating in, but you may not be at the forefront of the line. If that makes
But I
sense.
feel like it's still a life's work.
It is still a life's work, but you know what I mean. A
Yeah,
life work
yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of like this is
This is
my
your
this
calling. This is
is
what your this is your
yeah,
job. This is
and
everything. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, and for some people that's just not you. That's just not what you're meant to do, and that's okay. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
But whilst you're there, and I think like even I was mentioning about education as a mother, you know what I mean, educating children about their history,
Mm-hmm.
about African history, about this great civilization of Benin, of great civilization of African
Or even
countries.
about Black history within this country.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it depends where you're from as well, I guess. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah, yeah.
I guess I'm saying like in a Nigerian perspective, for example, because when you're in schools, people just think you live in mud huts. Do you know what I mean? And you have no you're a barbarian. And even when you look through history,
Apparently.
even when you look through certain English literature, um, uh, literature that's been written, let's say in the 1800s. I'm not an avid anyway. So when you look, you will see, the Negro slave, this, and barbaric, and the certain things that are said
Mm-hmm.
that are embedded in literature, and so a perspective can be fed that you will subconsciously inherit that is inaccurate, which is why I'm saying even an education about African civilization
Yeah.
um, can be something that you so it's just these little things that help with the fortification of one's understanding of who they are.
Hi guys, so that is it for the part two of our BLM series. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow us on our social medias at CTN underscore UK. And you can also go back and have a listen to our other podcasts that we have done, including part one of BLM, if you have not done so already, on Spotify, on iTunes, and on SoundCloud. Also, you can catch the video on YouTube. And for everything, the handle is the same. It is just at CTN underscore UK. So until next week, guys, have a blessed week and, you know, bye.